Hey, how's it going guys? My name is Eelwood and today we're taking a look at Loophero, a brand new game just released on Steam, and to answer the ultimate question as always, is it worth your time? So, Loophero is a single-player indie pixel art fantasy roguelike deck builder. Set on a desolate void-like world, you take on the role of a nameless hero set out to halt an all-consuming darkness. You'll be utilizing an interesting auto-turn-based combat system, destroying swarms of powerful creatures, all while mastering the out-of-the-box card game system Loophero has to offer. So aesthetically, Loophero is clearly both 8 and 16-bit inspired due to the design of pretty much all its visual assets. Judging by the overworld map and character designs, they seem to have gone for that old school Ghost and Goblins / early Castlevania design, which definitely adds to that vibe of seriousness felt throughout the game. Colours used also match this art style very well due to the excessive use of black for most of the game's shading and very limited colour palette for practically all assets of the game, both of which add a subtle nostalgic crudeness to the game I wish I saw more often. Lighting effects are clearly non-existent as you would expect from a pixel art game, especially due to the theme they've gone for. The most you're gonna get are simple unit flashes from damage taken. Other pretend light effects, however, like the pixel art campfires, necromancers, summoning effects, and a handful of special attack animations are all very impressive and do add a sense of importance to the animation in question. Textures and detail are also impressive, again a bit on the simpler side to remain congruent with the aesthetical theme, but easily distinguishable. Rock formations are impressively jagged, forest and meadows look surprisingly dense, and the blob monsters are unmistakably gooey. The overly dark, simple art style seems to really emphasize the impressive pixel art standard, whether you're looking at smoke effects or armor designs. Easily my favorite visual asset of the game. The UI is surprisingly simple for a roguelike deck builder. At first glance, it may seem a bit daunting due to its two sets of inventory, stat description screen, and various buttons here and there, but I have to say, once you actually understand how the game works, I honestly couldn't think of any possible way to simplify the interface any further. Other screens like your campsite, crafting screens, and encyclopedia also seem a touch busy, but again, if anything seems a bit too much, give it a while and you'll know it like the back of your hand. Level layouts are pretty self-explanatory if you've been paying attention. The whole gameplay experience takes place on practically two screens with very similar layouts. That is, after all, the name of the game. Character and enemy designs are very impressive in my opinion. They've managed to balance the highest possible pixel art quality with as much simplicity and as few pixels used as humanly possible, thus creating nostalgic, well-animated sprites that perfectly match the art style they've decided to go for. Keyframes are incredibly strong for such limited movements. All enemies are both creative and distinct. The dialogue screens contain an incredibly higher level of pixel art quality, while the NPC icons on the road map are actually 8-bit inspired. All these subtle details add up very well and create a clean yet nostalgic visual experience that, due to its old school simplicity, may go underappreciated. The OSTs in Loophero are not bad, pretty laid back, generally low tempo, 8-bit inspired FX sounds used to create a light sense of urgency throughout its entire 30-track playlist. Pretty much every OST is consistent, dark, and somewhat memorable, considering each expedition can take anywhere from 5 minutes to easily over an hour. Not once did any of the tracks become tedious or annoying. On the other hand, however, they could be considered glorified background music to some due to their seemingly repressed potency. Boss soundtracks definitely up the urgency a bit as you would expect, but do still remain quite consistent. The devs obviously didn't want to go overboard with the music intensity due to the game's slow burn style of play, which does make sense, but definitely noticeable. Everything else sound related is also quite decent. Unit, interaction, and map progression sounds are all quite unique and suit the visuals well. One thing I couldn't help but notice though was a very slight muffle effect applied to almost every sound effect in the game. I'm not Not sure if this was done on purpose or not, but definitely reduces that distinct crispness you tend to expect from high quality pixel art games. Now for the gameplay. So Loop Hero doesn't have any difficulty options to choose from before you play. It is what it is whether you like it or not, just like every good game should be. The lore of the game is quite unusual to say the least. As mentioned, you take on the role of a nameless hero, you witness a robed skeletal wizard summon some sort of void sludge which consumes the land around you. Your character then appears to have forgotten everything about who they are and the world around them. You also discover this all-consuming darkness has the ability to destroy space, time, as well as memories. Even the other NPCs you meet at the campsite share your burden and have also forgotten who they are and what they do. As you progress the game and slowly develop your campsite, the memories of yourself and others start to return slowly, but not enough to shed any real light on the situation. Being the hero of this world, you decide to take on these godlike astral beings and put an end to the destruction of what would appear to be the entire universe. So when you first start the game, you're given a very impressive pixel art cutscene to introduce you to the aforementioned storyline. You then spawn on a small looping path, take control of your character and play. Considering the amount of content, optimizations and strategies available in Loop Hero, the controls cannot be simpler. You have your left mouse button to select whatever it is you want to select, right mouse button to pause and play your loop progression, and that's literally everything. If you know by chance what a PC mouse is and how to plug it in, I highly doubt you'll have any problems with this game's controls. The base concept of the game is just as simple. Your character simply walks in one direction around the on-screen looping path. Combat is completely automated as well as unit targeting. All you need to do as the player is optimize your equipment and utilize the cards you get from destroying monsters. You can use these cards to simply build a desired object or terrain somewhere on the map. Every time something is built, your boss progression bar increases slightly. Hopefully kill the boss, rinse and repeat. There are of course way more mechanics going on here, but that's Loop Hero in a nutshell. A very big part of this game is of course the deck building and utilization. The cards you get from killing monsters are completely dependent on what cards you selected on the deck building screen. There are cards to use on the path, besides the path, and away from the path. On the path cards include cemeteries that spawn skeletons or villages that heal when approached. Besides the path are mainly for synergizing with path cards. These include adding vampire enemies to nearby encounters or placing beacons that give a haste buff when approached, and away from the path cards are by far the most common. These are mainly terrain cards you place nowhere near the path which provide passive buffs to aid you in combat. These include rocky peaks for higher HP or forests for increased attack speed. The game also provides undocumented combos when specific cards are used near each other. My personal favorites are placing a vampire mansion next to a village, which results in a ransacked zombie infested town, or placing a river next to a battlefield, which creates a shipwreck that spawns very powerful siren enemies. There are plenty of combinations you'll stumble across by accident, but good luck discovering them all by yourself. There's a total of 3 classes to play as, provided you unlock them at your campsite first, each with unique playstyles and favorable stats to target for different strategies and experiences. The game is progressed by completing acts. There are 4 in total. Beat the boss on your current act to progress to the next one. When enemies are killed, you gain a bit of XP. Each level up allows you to select one of 3 traits that are specific to your class and provide a variety of unique benefits to help you. Defeated enemies as well as traversing certain terrain gives you a variety of different resources that you spend at your campfire hub. Doing so can give you lots of different benefits depending on what structures you'd like to build and upgrade. These range from equipable supply items for tiny combat benefits, to a free resurrect once per expedition, to an encyclopedia for information on everything you would ever need. The game runs on a daytime progression timer that constantly fills up, which most tiles of the game use to spawn enemies with. You can retreat at any time during a run, but doing so only saves you a percentage of your collected resources. If however you retreat at the campfire tile, you get to keep all of your gathered resources instead. But be careful, because if you manage to die on a run, you only get to keep 30%. There are way more game mechanics I didn't mention, but these are the essential need-to-knows to get you started. Combat in Loop Hero, although executed automatically, is surprisingly intense and unforgiving. As mentioned, defeated enemies do indeed drop cards, but they can also drop equipment. And don't forget, the higher the loop number you're currently on, the better gear you will receive. For example, the rogue is able to dual wield, the necromancer can equip 2 rings at once, and the warrior has access to shields. Warriors tend to favour max HP, counter and retaliation. Rogues are more about attack speed, dodge percent and crit, while necromancers are a completely different playstyle altogether and favour HP regen, maximum skeletons and summon quality. Try to get used to maximising your survivability at all times, because the last 2 acts of the game get extremely difficult. A lot of the time, if you're up against 5 enemies at once, all with extra abilities, good dodge rates and fast attack speeds, you could spend over 30 minutes building up a nice loop and lose the entire run in less than 60 seconds. And it feels even worse when you're going for a boss kill. Some bosses I find are quite RNG based with the targeting, as you can't influence who your hero attacks in a multi-unit fight. If you've got teammates with you and the boss is targeting you specifically 5 hits in a row, you could potentially die in less than 10 seconds. If you're lucky, however, you could down a boss just as quickly, but that is for your RNG to decide. Overall, a clean, rich, yet simple gaming experience that puts your hard-earned, slow burn optimizations to the test for a big, intense, and unforgiving finale. So for the ultimate question, is it worth your time? If you're after a fresh, simple, out-of-the-box experience with classic visuals, unforgiving gameplay and a concept far from the norm, Loop Hero could be exactly what you're looking for. I'm going to give this game a 4.5 star or 87 out of 100. Loop Hero, summarized in one word, is simple. The controls are simple, the concept is simple, and the gameplay is simple. The only difference is it's also surprisingly difficult, and due to this level of difficulty requires consideration, optimization and strategy, especially on the final 2 acts. I like how enemies get considerably more difficult the further you progress, with additional animations to match their new abilities. I like the campsite upgrade system as well as the many different benefits that come with them, and I like the incredible satisfaction you get from finally beating a boss that you've been stuck on for a while. A few things I didn't really like about the game, however, were the resource requirements, loop item quality and death system. The cost of buildings and upgrades at your campsite are extremely expensive for what you get in the early to mid-game and require constant loop grinding just to get access to some pretty basic stuff. A free resurrect per expedition I understand, but starting your first loop with 3 crappy items, fucking rip off. The increased item quality you get from higher loop numbers could have been a bit more balanced. 50% dodge chance on boots on loop 20 compared to 3% dodge chance on loop 1 is a bit unbalanced in my opinion and didn't require such a big jump in quality. And finally, the death system is considerably harsh for such a slow burn grind. If you're going for a boss kill and want to play as optimized as possible, you're looking at a 30 to 45 minute run. If you're gathering a lot of resources, you're looking at a 15 to 30 minute run. Combine this with the overpriced campsite costs and my unwillingness to spend hours of my time on grinding runs, progression can take you a long time. I'll be honest, the first 3 to 5 hours definitely felt like a grind to get your basic buildings out of the way, but on the other hand, once you do pass Act 2, get considerably harder and a lot more fun. The replayability is definitely there once you establish yourself a bit better, but by the time you're on the final act, endgame strategies, passives and benefits seriously add to the enjoyment and satisfaction of your looping experience. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more games I'll be reviewing in future, and for those of you patiently awaiting Monster Hunter Rise to be released, I can confirm a review is definitely on the way. Hopefully released at the start of next month, so for those of you subscribed, keep an eye on your notifications. But as always, all the best guys, take care.